Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Everyday Black History. We'd like to welcome you all today, Hump Day, October 6th. Man, this year is almost over. Can't believe we're in October already. But we're in the holiday season now. Effectively, October kind of starts holiday season when you think of Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And so we're here, another year almost gone. But it's hump day today, and I hope you all are having a great week. I hope you all are having a good month so far. I hope you all are having a great year. Whatever it is, I hope everything is going well. And if it isn't, I hope things get better real soon. But today on Everyday Black History, we're gonna start doing things a little bit differently. Not in the format of our podcast, but just we wanted to revisit some of our earlier episodes. I've been doing Everyday Black History for 3.5 years now. I started in March 2018, and I just wanted to talk about Black history and about people in our history who accomplished great things who many people don't know about. And so when I first started, I just didn't really, know what I was doing. I talked in a real low voice, and so, the audio was okay, but I didn't really like it, especially after listening to it again. Like now, I didn't really like the way it sounds. So I wanted to redo my older episodes, just to talk with more excitement because, our history is exciting. Talking about, black men and women of the diaspora who have done and accomplished some great things that are unknown to most people is an exciting thing. And so I just wanted to talk about that and reflect that excitement in the way I deliver the material. So we're gonna redo some of our older episodes and put them out there to people who might not have gone back that far while listening to the podcast. And if you have been with us since the beginning, then great, thank you, I love you. But I just wanted to redo these episodes for those who might have just started listening and haven't gone back that far. So today, we're gonna highlight a woman by the name of Sarah Boone. And Sarah Boone was one of the first black women to receive a patent. She was an inventor, and she was also a dressmaker in the 1800s. She was born in 1832, and she was awarded a patent for her improved ironing board. Now, you just want to say this because whenever I talk about black men and women who invented things that were around for a long time, people are always quick to say, "Oh, that was invented already." But she received a patent for an improvement on the already existing ironing board, and there is a patent application to prove it. And I'm only saying this because I've had back and forth with people who would say, some people get triggered by black excellence, so they feel the need to try and come and correct and say, oh, she didn't invent the ironing board, she got a patent for an improved ironing board. Hers was different than what already existed at the time. But she was a dressmaker who made her name by inventing the modern day ironing board. And in her patent application, she wrote that the purpose of her invention was to produce a cheap, simple, convenient, and highly effective device, particularly adapted to be used in ironing the sleeves and bodies of ladies' garments. With its approval in 1892, she became one of the first black women to be awarded a patent. That's huge because this is during the time she was born into slavery, and this was during the time of Jim Crow. You know, Black men and women, weren't supposed to be that, they weren't supposed to show that kind of ingenuity. And the fact that, she did and invented something that is still being used today, received a patent for an improvement on something that's still being used today. Her model is still being used today. That's something huge, and that's something that deserves to be highlighted. So she was born Sarah Marshall near the town of New Bern in Craven County, North Carolina in 1832. Now, she was the daughter of enslaved parents. She was born in slavery, but she did earn her freedom at some point in her life when she got married to a man by the name of James Boone, who was a free black man. And they went on to have 8 children together. Wow. So she utilized a network that was tied to the Underground Railroad, and she and her husband migrated to New Haven, Connecticut, prior to the Civil War. They settled in the a neighborhood. They settled in a black neighborhood near Dixwell Avenue, where Sarah worked as a dressmaker, and her husband was a bricklayer, and he worked as a bricklayer until his death in the 1870s. But they were successful where they owned their own home, which again is a big deal because black Americans in this time, not many of us owned property. So they owned the home that they lived in. Now, during this time, it was also illegal for Black Americans to read and write, and so Sarah overcame that disadvantage in her late 40s when she learned how to read through her church, her congregational church, the Dixwell Congregational Church, and so what gave her the idea for her invention was that in Connecticut, she faced fierce competition when it came to making dresses. So, in order to make her dresses more eye-catching to her customers, she figured out, how can I do this? She thought about how could she do this. So, by the early 1890s, she hit on something that was tailor-made for the corsets that were popular in the area. So, to that point, dressmakers were primarily ironing their clothes on a wooden plank that was placed across 2 chairs, which was a method that was fine for the wide skirts of the time, but wasn't well suited for the contours of a tight fitted dress. So her solution to this was to create a narrower, curved board that could slip into sleeves and allow for a garment to be shifted without getting wrinkled. And her invention also had padding, so that was to eliminate the impressions that were produced by an ironing board. And it was also collapsible so that it can be stored easily. So when she applied for her patent, she used her writing skills that she just gained by learning how to read and write later on in her life. And she applied for a patent for her new and improved ironing board in 1891. And she was awarded the patent on April 26, 1892, which made her one of the first black women, first black Americans in general, one of the first black Americans in general to earn that distinction of having a patent and being known as an inventor. So, as mentioned, just thinking about the fact that she created something that's still in wide use today. I mean, most people have an ironing board in their house, and to think that a black woman, invented an improved ironing board that's still used today, that's amazing. It's things like this that I always say that I wish was taught in school when we were kids, because just think about how that can affect you growing up, how it can affect you in such a positive way growing up. That this black woman who was born a slave and didn't learn how to read and write until she was in her 40s was able to invent something, use her ingenuity in the field of work that she was in, and invent something to make her job easier, but that still was in wide use. Like 100 years later, over 100 years later. Now, there is little evidence that she benefited from the commercialization of her invention, so we don't know if she got rich off of it or anything like that. I don't know, but just what that can do for you, just knowing that as as a child growing up, to know that we were more than just slaves, and there were plenty of us who were inventing things and creating things, and that were smarter than most of the people that were around us. So yeah, just looking at her example, it just she overcame so much, in her life, being born a slave and not being able to read and write, but still managing to be successful enough to own a home, to own a business, being a dressmaker, and to invent something. Now, she died in 1904, October 29th, and she was buried alongside her mother and husband in New Haven's Evergreen Cemetery. So, as mentioned, her ironing board is recognized as the prototype for what became an indispensable household item over the following decades. So, yeah, Sarah Boone, we just wanted to, cover her again because, you know, her invention is, basically, indispensable, as we just said. So, Sarah Boone, we want to thank you for your contribution to Black history and Black culture, and we salute you. And so we'll be doing more episodes like this where we'll be covering some of the early highlights on everyday Black history that we covered a few years back. But we just wanted to do it a little differently and just do it the right way. Give them, proper justice by just showcasing them with more excitement, because what they accomplished during some of the harshest times, when slavery and Jim Crow was way more rampant and in your face, the fact that they was able to, um, create things and succeed is something that deserves to be highlighted. And Sarah Boone is one of those examples. So that concludes this episode of Everyday Black History, and we'll be coming at you more this week with more Black history and Black culture. So stay tuned for the next episode.